Oh, what a beautiful morning for Wes and Darling Beat to review one of the classic adapted Broadway musicals of all time. A turn-of-the-century story of Midwest cowboys and ranchers seeking romance with the local women that they love. Saddle up for Wes and Darling Beat to discuss Rogers and Hammerstein's first ever musical, Oklahoma, on View the Right Thing.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of View the Right Thing. I'm Wes, and with me, as always, Darling Beat. Say hi, Beat.
Hello.
It's like, oh, is she gonna say hi? Like a little dramatic pause. You're so dramatic, Beat.
I am. Always.
That's okay. So Beat, how you doing? This is our first episode of 2023.
2023?
2023, hype. Any predictions for what you think is going to happen in the world this year?
Oh, God. No.
No?
I just hope it simmers down.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, hopefully everyone will have a wonderful year.
I did see, it was a joke, but it was a meme joke, and it was really funny. It was like, nobody knows, but all the kids can tell you that the world went to shit after a gorilla in Cincinnati Zoo.
Oh, Harambe.
Harambe.
Oh.
It's been bad since then.
Wait, when was that?
I have no idea.
That feels like that was way forever ago. I don't know. Are you looking it up? You got real quiet.
I am.
Yeah, I knew it.
I am.
I was like, she's so quiet. There's shenanigans afoot.
Wait, how do you spell Harambe?
Harambe.
2016.
It was 2016. That is when it all went to shit. Oh no. Wow, crazy. So for people that don't know, Harambe was a gorilla that was killed probably needlessly at the Cincinnati Zoo when somebody fell into the gorilla pen, correct? Like a kid, yeah. And the gorilla went over and grabbed the kid or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, we got to kill it. Protect the child.
I was just remembering like all of the videos and the edits of it. It's not something to laugh at because it was very serious, very scary for the child, but
and sad for Harambe.
Yeah. So sad.
Yeah. Anyways, now that we brought everybody down, thanks, Beat.
Sorry, it was a good joke, but then we went into detail.
Well, I mean, people are gonna be like, "What is that about?" All right, let's move on. Beat, tell me, have you seen any trailers recently?
Well, since we've last spoken, we did have a little trailer night, so I did see a bunch of trailers. Yeah, like The Whale, which looks like it's going to be great. Cocaine Bear, that looks like it's going to be absolutely insane.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question about The Whale real quick. Did it make you feel emotional when you watched it? Did it make you like want to tear up?
Yes, but in a sad way, not in the way I think the movie you said was intended.
Well, I think when we see more context and I think that scene that's in the trailer that is super emotional, I think is supposed to be a sad scene, right? But yeah. I think the movie as a whole is supposed to be pretty uplifting.
I hope so.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's a very interesting concept, I think.
Yeah. Well,
the direction they're trying to go is...
By the time people hear this, it'll be out. People will have seen it by then. I'll have seen it by then. And I'm very excited. So what else? What other trailers? Any other jump to mind?
The Knock on the Cabin.
Knock at the Cabin, yeah.
That one looks interesting. It looks very interesting because it's a horror movie, but also like some of the dialogue in the way the movie was going was kind of weird.
Yeah. And I think probably intentionally, but like something's supposed to be off.
Yeah, I'd like to see where that storyline goes.
Yeah, what is the twist and how big is the twist?
Yeah, and why are they there for real? Like, how did they know and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm into that Four Horsemen stuff. So.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other trailers? We watched one for a movie called Champions that I really am excited for, because it's Bobby Farrelly. So it's Woody Harrelson is a basketball coach. It's kind of a story that's been done before. It's been done by the Mighty Ducks, and I think there's maybe a movie with Martin Lawrence maybe. And then most recently with John Stamos on Disney Plus, the show Big Shot. And it's basically about an out of control, angry coach that gets fired for acting up and has to do community service, dealing with, kids and stuff. And so this he's dealing with special needs kids. And I think it looks really good. It looks very funny. And it's directed by Bobby Farrelly, who I really like. People, know probably the Farrelly brothers more so than just the solo Bobby Farrelly, but maybe the biggest thing. I'm trying to think what would be the biggest thing. Maybe Something About Mary. I think maybe Dumb and Dumber was a Farrelly brother movie as well. They did Me, Myself, and Irene and Shallow Hal and Dumb and Dumber and Something About Mary are probably the two biggest ones.
What is Shallow Hal? Is that the one with Jack Black?
Yeah, and Gwyneth Paltrow.
Okay. Out of every movie that you named, that is the only one I liked.
Really? That's probably the most controversial of all of them. Oh, I love Dumb and Dumber. The Ringer. With Johnny Knoxville, they have a tendency to put, especially Down syndrome actors in their movies. They tend to feature them quite a bit in most of their films, and so this is another one of their, because The Ringer dealt with that as well. Special Olympics. So this is another one of their movies where they're featuring special needs people. But anyways, I think it looks like a fun little movie and kind of heartwarming. So we need more heartwarming movies, Know what I'm saying?
No, we need more horror movies.
Look, horror movies beat. Horror movies are a dime a dozen. Honestly, just there's so many because they're so cheap to make, and so it's hey, if you can get this really cheap horror movie that you made sold, then you're probably going to make some money. Because you hardly spent anything on it. I mean, look at really good examples are the Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activity, the first one. Those movies were Paranormal Activity was I think it was a $500 budget or something. It was the cost of the camera, and Blair Witch was kind of similar, where it was hire a bunch of acting students out of college and rent some cameras and send them out into the woods.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, they made, I don't know which one of those, but one of those is the highest profit film, I think, compared to its budget, right? Because you only spend $500 or $5,000 on a movie, and then if you make hundreds and hundreds of $1 million, that's all profit,
Yeah. What is that movie with the woman that plays in Resident Evil? But it's
Mila Jovovich?
Yeah, it's The Fifth Stage or...
The Fifth Element?
She's no. That's the one with Bruce Willis. I know that movie.
Yeah. But Lilo Dallas Multipass.
But it's filmed the same way as the Paranormal Activity.
Mila Jovovich movie?
Yeah. I don't think that's paranormal. It might be one of them.
Let me see.
I don't know. There was 5 or 6
paranormal
activities.
Mila Jovovich. No, that's not right. That's not her name. I thought it was Jovovich, right? Mila Jovovich, yeah.
She was in this town, and her son and her daughter or something were in a house, and
The Fourth Kind?
by alien.
The Fourth Kind.
Is The Fourth Kind? Oh.
Yeah.
that movie was so good because it was kind of like a mix of
like found
like
footage,
the camera type, the found footage and like actual filmed footage. Pretty good.
This is the exact opposite of the style of movie that we're going to talk about tonight. Right? Like we couldn't be further from it. The found footage alien movies. Yeah. Okay, so that was trailers. We went from the Farrelly brothers to Mila Jovovich. What is wrong with us? Any other trailers or news or things you're excited about?
Oscar, look at a house.
Yeah, that's good. When are you going to look at a house?
I'm going to go this Saturday.
Exciting.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. Let me know how it goes. The Oscars are coming up. So the question is now in the air for me. Are we going to do the Oscar episode that we used to do? And if we do, are we going to invite guests to be on it? So we have some decisions to make. Those are typically our longest episodes. I think one of them was almost 4 hours. So
that sounds exciting. We'll definitely have to discuss.
Okay. Yeah, we will. If anyone wants to let us know whether they care, feel free. Okay. I think that's all I got. So you wanna jump into Oklahoma?
Get into it.
All right. So Oklahoma, 1955. I know Dwayne did his little read at the beginning, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you here. The short synopsis is: in Oklahoma, several farmers, cowboys, and a traveling salesman compete for the romantic favors of various local ladies. It's a Rogers and Hammerstein musical of, like South Pacific, The King and I, Sound of Music fame. It's based on a play that was written by a Native American or part Native American named Lynn. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting. It's called Lynn Riggs, and the play is called Green Grow the Lilacs. And I can't remember if it was Rogers or Hammerstein. One of them saw the play, and then on the way to the other person's house the next day or that next week or whatever, basically came up with the song "Oh What a Beautiful Morning" on the way over, and then they figured out how to adapt this play. Although there is some maybe controversy that maybe they cut out of the process. They cut out Lynn Riggs and didn't really give them an opportunity to take part in this, which is kind of unfortunate, but pretty common of how Native Americans have been treated in this country forever. So, and there's some interesting things that I noticed in the movie that we'll talk about that maybe apply a little bit to the source material. So the question is, Beat, did you like this film? Did you enjoy this movie?
I thought that it was watchable.
Oh no, watchable. That's pretty low. That's a low bar.
I felt as though I could watch it, but I will never in my life watch this again.
Yeah. Not even if somebody was like, I've never seen Oklahoma, let's watch it.
I'd be like, you can take your own time to do that.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, that's all right. It is my favorite musical, but it doesn't have to be yours. You would rather watch Moulin Rouge again, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I could get with that.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about the music. Had you heard some of these songs before?
No.
You hadn't heard like Oklahoma or Surrey with the Fringe on Top or anything before?
No.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Wait, you haven't seen When Harry Met Sally, have you?
No.
Oh, there's a great scene where Billy Crystal sings Surrey with a Fringe on Top. I think it's on our wheel. Okay. So did you enjoy any of the songs?
I did. I'm a big music person. I did enjoy all of the songs. There was not a song that I did not enjoy.
That's great. And were there any favorites of yours?
Oh, The love song.
People Will Say We're in Love?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It was adorable. I loved it so much. They were so cute.
That's funny. I expected you to maybe pick one of the more like sillier songs, like I Can't Say No.
Oh my god.
Although she's tone deaf, so you know.
Yes. Oh my god, yes. Every time she sang, I was just like, good lord. She just reminded me of a kid just like wailing a song, and I was like, oh goodness. But no, I did enjoy her songs too. I thought they were really funny. But I am a sucker for an emotional song, and that one, I loved that one.
Yeah.
It was cute.
I like, I think it's kind of surprisingly emotional. Many a New Day, where all the girls are, getting ready and talking about not needing, we shouldn't need a man. That one's pretty good.
I'm not going to cry. Yeah. I enjoyed that one as well. I liked the message there and her just, trying to be strong.
Yeah, it's an interesting conflict for the women in the film where they're trying to meet but also fight sort of the expectations of them, it seems like. Like Ado Annie is a really good example, and then of course the Many a New Day song is also a pretty good example of sort of them challenging the societal norms of that era. The movie takes place in 1906 for what it's worth, which it kills me because, older now and having read things like Grapes of Wrath and knowing about the Dust Bowl, and they're just talking about how things are going to be great from now on once they get towards the end of the film. And I'm like, yeah, but in 20 years, your kids are going to be like poor and starving. They're going to be eating mayo sandwiches.
Oh no, that's so sad.
Yeah, they're going to be going west to try and find work as migrant farmers, picking grapes. So yeah, it has a strange connotation to it now as an adult. But okay, so let's talk a little bit about your notes. I'd like to because originally in the first act, I know you said you'd written a lot of notes. So I don't know. I don't know if you wrote a lot of notes in the second act or not, but I'm curious about your notes. Maybe skip over the ones that I mentioned for now, and let's stick to just yours.
I did want to just mention that at the very beginning of this film, during the credits or during the opening credits, I was like, "Please don't let this be a cowboy western."
Oh no!
Please don't let. And then Curly comes rolling up on his little horsey. I was like, no.
Well, it's not a traditional western, though.
Yes, that I was thankful for.
Yeah. So you don't like westerns?
No, I can't get into them.
Oh boy, I don't know if we have any westerns on our list. I'll have to look. We might.
Well, if we do, I need you to just chuck them off, okay?
All right, you might have to suck it up.
Yeah, you're right. I gotta do what I gotta do.
Yeah.
You never know. I might fall in love with one.
So you mentioned the credits, and I'm not going to get into it this second because it is one of my notes that we'll talk about in a little bit. But there is a potential, we're going to help fight against the concept of Mandela effect, which I think is a bullshit thing, by the way. There is an opportunity for this movie to trick people into thinking there's some sort of Mandela effect. So we will debunk the Mandela effect of Oklahoma in a little bit, okay?
Cool. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I love Mandela effects. Okay.
Okay. All right, go. Keep going with your notes.
So my first thought was I was going to ask you about the camera angle in the very beginning.
Which one?
Because it like when he's riding on the horse, it just looked really weird.
So that will be. So remember, I asked you to take a note about Todd Ayo, and we will talk about the camera in a little bit, and it also ties into the Mandela effect thing. So, good observation. Can we table it and talk about it in a little bit?
Of course. Now I'm even more excited because I'm a smart little girly and I noticed stuff.
You are a smart girl. I mean, there's a reason that I'm doing this with you. There's a reason why I ask you to take notes is because I know you pick up on stuff and you ask good questions. So,
okay. So my second first note is with the fringe on top.
Yeah. Okay.
This song was such a banger.
Sorry, with the fringe on top?
Yes, it's so catchy. Like, that's my second favorite song. But of course, my first is people will say we're in love.
Yeah.
But the friend on the top, the way he was describing it, and then he was like, I'm just kidding, it's not real. And she got so upset.
But then, at the end of the movie,
full circle.
Yeah.
She got her little fringe.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But I did love their relationship, how it was like almost like an enemies to lovers, like,
yeah,
why would I love you type of situation.
Well, and there's something about Curly, especially in the first half of the movie. Curly's kind of an asshole. Like, he's charming and good looking and he can sing, but like, he's kind of mean to her. Like, he teases her and maybe pushes her buttons a little too much. And then he fucking like tries to convince Judd to hang himself. Like, he's a little bit of an a-hole,
Yeah, no. But Judd's a creep.
Judd is a creep. I mean, they established that like pretty much immediately with him like watching Lori through her window when she's like getting undressed or whatever.
Yeah, it was freaking weird.
Yeah.
But I really did enjoy the scene where Curly was talking to Judd, because I thought that it was really weird how he was he joined in.
Oh yeah,
singing about his own death. I was like, dang.
Yeah, well, and I think that goes to some of the larger themes in this movie that's sort of like, uncharacteristic, especially of Rogers and Hammerstein, but also of movies of this era where everything is sort of like painted with like a glossy coat. And even as fun and kind of silly as this story is, it deals with like sexual desire and sexual frustration and the anger of like not getting the things that you want, or not feeling like you can, like for Ado Annie, it's like feeling like you're not supposed to get the things that you want. And what those like that creates this like perfect storm, like at some point we see a tornado in a dream sequence, and that's sort of what this is all brewing up. All these like kind of sexual feelings are all brewing beneath all these people, and it eventually comes to a head at the end. But yeah, it's pretty unique for a movie like this. And so I think go ahead.
I really like the way you put that, because like you have Lori, like she's like, I don't know what I want, and then Curly is like, the thing that I want doesn't want me. And
yeah.
Pretty much the same thing as Judd. Like, what I want doesn't want me, because it's not like Lori is coming right out and saying it.
Yeah. Well, and I think to your point about the Judd scene and the sort of the weirdness about him joining in is, I think there's like some part of Judd that does want to kill himself. I think, like in today's terms, Judd is basically an incel. He feels like this person that's weaker than him is taking his power away by not giving him the thing that he wants. And I think there's a part of him that does want to kill himself. And so him kind of like fantasizing about his own eulogy fits,
Yeah, Curly was he was roasting Judd.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Talking about how like the rats. Yeah.
I was like, at first I was like, is he threatening him? Oh, he's roasting him.
Yeah.
Oh, this is sad. Yeah, it was very depressing.
All right, what else you got there?
So let me get through the notes we got to pause on.
Oh, boy.
Aunt Eller.
I love Aunt Eller.
I'm not going to call her Aunt Eller. I'm going to call her Aunt Eller.
Aunt Eller.
Because Aunt, we got to keep that country accent.
That's how I was raised.
She's a trip. I love her so much.
Oh yeah, she's great. And we kind of brushed by this a little bit because I mentioned it. I like paused it and I was like, wait a second. I think that Aunt Eller is at bare minimum bisexual, if not gay. She doesn't have her own child. She's the cool aunt that the niece lives with. And she two things jumped out at me in that first half. And one was when Will comes off the train from Kansas City and he has the kaleidoscope, the small wonder, and he's showing the guys, and it's got, naked ladies in it, and Eller looks at it, and at first she like sort of fakes being shocked and upset by it, and then she kind of gives him a knowing smile and then goes back to it, and it's like clear that she thinks it's like clever or fun. And then
it's like, how do you get to the second picture?
Yeah. And so like that is, maybe you could overlook that. But then when the peddler comes by and he shows them the bloomers, she says, I don't like to wear them, but I sure like to look at them. And I thought, holy shit, like she's into women. I couldn't believe it.
I thought it was really cool how everyone, when Will got back, was kind of like astonished with the 7-story buildings.
Oh yeah, skyscraper.
What is a telephone? And his 2-step tap dancing.
Oh yeah. Shocking.
I did really enjoy those sequences.
Yeah, it's a good dance. And the stunts were pretty cool. There's actually a really cool thing with so the 2 girls that show up throughout this whole thing, they're essentially meant to be like 12 years old. And they definitely read young and innocent, right? And they initially needed some women dancers of some kind for that scene, and they had this idea for these 12-year-old girls, and the choreographer Agnes, oh god, why am I blanking on names now? I'll come up with it at some point and say it, but Agnes DeMille, she was like, oh, I know these 2 women who can play teenagers. They were like in their 20s. And so, they cut one of their hair and had them do this. And they were so like sort of fun and funny that they ended up just writing more parts for them to be in the movie. They called them the Goon Girls because they were always gooning around. And so those 2 girls have a stunt that they perform in where they're on the train starts to move and they jump off into the arms of cowboys, which requires, super precise timing, right? Because if one of those guys misses, they're, that's a broken coccyx or something. So, so right before they were about to do it, the union representative called for an adjustment, which meant that they had to stop and renegotiate. Essentially, they basically assigned a new pay rate for the stunt because they deemed it hazardous at the last minute. And so the girls got $250 for every take that they had to do, and they ended up doing 7 takes, and they were kind of like, man, we should call for an adjustment on everything. Like we just got rich from this. So because 1955 is a lot of money.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, and then the horse, the guy jumps off the train onto the horse. That was not the guy who played Will who did the stunt for that. That was the stunt man. But
okay,
yeah, great scene. Love it.
Love it. I did like how at the lake her shirt was magically closed. Like it cut to her face and the front of her shirt was open, and then it cut to a different angle and it was closed.
Yeah, movie magic, right?
Movie magic.
You gotta get past those censors, especially in that era. They're lucky they let her swim around, seemingly naked.
My next note is so funny. Yeah, I love how we were talking about Annie earlier and we were talking about her tune. It says Annie seems to be missing a few brain cells and tune.
Oh yeah, and it's almost like she's so unsure of everything. It's like her personality of being unsure about things carries over to her music, which is really interesting because like usually a lot of characters will sort of like their internal monologue or their internal singing in a musical will be bigger and more full of more energy because it's like their internal thoughts, right? But like Ado Annie is just through and through, maybe not all that bright and kind of unsure about everything. And so she's like in some ways a little bit timid, and that even comes through in her singing. And I think it's, you see it again in the Dream Ballet when she's one of the showgirls. One of the showgirls on Judd's Cards, essentially, I think is what they were supposed to be. And she's doing the little dance with her skirt, but she's like so like, it's such a subtle movement and so like lifeless. I love it so much. It kills me. You want to know an interesting story about her? That's Gloria Graham. And there was another actress who was going to try and it was Mimi Van Doren, was sort of campaigning to be Ado Annie, and because this was a fairly big musical, very popular on Broadway, and so Mimi Van Doren really wanted the part, and she had told her acting teacher about how she was campaigning because she really wanted this part. Well, it turns out that her acting teacher was Gloria Graham's mother, and so her mother told her about it. And so Gloria Graham then went out and fought for the part, which kind of sucks for Mimi Van Doren, right? But she ended up getting it, and she, the producers loved her. Shirley MacLaine also wanted the part of Ado Annie, and she was friends with Shirley Jones, who plays Laurie, and she said, "Hey, can you put in a good word for me?" And so she went and talked to the producers and came back to Shirley MacLaine and was like, "Hey, it's a no-go. They really want Gloria Graham for this." So,
well, I think she did a great job.
Yeah, she's really fun. She's silly. Apparently, she's a nightmare to work with, though. Like, she'd show up and she would yell at crew members and stuff. Like, nobody really liked working with her. It was her first movie, too.
Ew.
Yeah. Show up on your first movie and just be a pill.
That's so gross.
Yeah.
My next note is Girl in the Mirror.
Oh, the girl that was one I wanted to point out. So she's primping with her hair. That's one of our teenage girls. So
goons.
One of the goon girls. So that actress, they were like, "Hey, we got to change her hair. We need to give her a different cut." And so the hairdresser was like, "Let's do a pixie cut because it'll be cute and blah, 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 blah." And they were like, "We don't want it to be that cute. We want it to be a little bit more, time period accurate." And so they gave her a bowl cut instead because that was more what they gave kids back then. And so there was a day where, I don't know if it was the director or somebody else, or maybe it was the choreographer, saw her looking in a window or a mirror, and she was doing looking at her hair like that. And she was like, "Oh, we got to put this in the movie." And so that's how that moment ended up in the film.
That is hilarious. I feel so bad for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Her poor hair. I mean, she's rich from jumping off of a train.
Yeah. But
her poor hair.
At what cost?
Her locks.
Yeah.
I would like to say that I feel so bad for the peddler.
Yeah, how come?
I just felt like he got the shit end of the stick constantly.
Because he ended up with the horse whinny?
No, not even yes. No, yes to that. But just everything, he was trying to be honest, and people were just like, "Well, you better say the opposite of what you want."
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Just at the end of a shotgun.
Just like, "I'm just trying to leave." I was like, at one point in all caps, I wrote, "Please, just leave town."
Yeah. He should just hightailed it, but he's got to make that money. He had to sell that water bottle to somebody.
His $3 water bottle he bought for $8.
Yeah. What else you got for me?
Do you know what the fumes were in which she was inhaling?
They mentioned they were smelling salts. That's probably what they were. I don't think she was actually inhaling something hallucinogenic. I know we kind of joked about that, but I don't think she was. I think she's probably, it was just smelling salts, but it wasn't so much about that. I think the subconscious of everything that was going on and sort of the desires, and there was sort of this like unrequited love triangle going on, and she knew that there was trouble brewing. You know, it kind of foreshadows a lot. And also, you know, talks a little bit about her sexual desires and her sexual worries as well. You know, when in that dream sequence, when Judd starts approaching Curly, and Curly has the gun and he fires at him and fires at him and fires at him, but it's almost like he's shooting blanks. You know, like there's not a much better metaphor than shooting blanks to like sort of talk about like your sexual worries, right? And sort of that like maybe Curly can't be the man that I need, and I'll be forced to be with this other person. You know,
yeah.
Who's a louse?
A louse?
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, they show him in the not bordello, but the hall, the saloon with the girls from his cards, the burlesque dancers.
Yeah, I did quite enjoy how it was like a 180. Like in Curly's part, it was all about her and his love for her and her love for him. But then in Judd's, it was more women are objects, and I need a lot of women, and I'll give them all attention.
Well, yeah, they're possessions, right?
Yeah, so, they're pretty much property at that point, and he was just like, I can have anything.
Which again, we know that Laurie has been in his you know, having watched the whole thing, we know that Laurie has been in his
smokehouse,
the smokehouse, because she brought him soup when he was sick, which means she would have seen the pictures and the showgirl cards on the walls. So we know that that's why she knows about them, right? Mm-hmm. Again, like these showgirls are essentially possessions, right? He owns these cards. So he owns these women. And at the end of that dream sequence, he owns Laurie. He literally picks her up like a thing and carries her off.
Yeah.
So good observation.
Thank you. Also, Judd's got cakes.
Yeah, he does have that cake.
That.
Cake for days. That's Rod Steiger. I'm trying to think of what you might recognize Rod Steiger from. Let me see if I can come up with something. I mean, you probably haven't seen In the Heat of the Night, which In the Heat of the Night, check out the episode on View the Right Thing. Let's see here. What would you have seen with Rod?
I love your plugs.
Yeah. Well, every once in a while we get to talk about, you know, something comes up. He was in Mars Attacks. You may have seen that, or maybe when you were a kid you saw Shiloh, the movie about the dog.
I did see that.
He's the doctor in that, Doc Wallace.
Oh, wow.
What else is he in? I don't know if you've seen any of these older things. I don't think you've seen The Player. Yeah, a lot of things you maybe haven't seen. Oh, he was in the original Amityville. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have seen that.
So he's a priest in that.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So there we go. You have seen some stuff with him. Shiloh.
Go Judd.
Yeah, go Judd.
Yeah, and your cakes.
But, you know, poor Judd is dead.
Yeah.
I mean, Rod Steiger died in 2002. All right. What?
I was so taken aback. So the actor is dead and Judd's dead, right?
Yeah, poor Judd is dead.
Okay. I thought you were just talking about Judd, and
both.
Then you were like, oh, and the actor.
Yeah.
I do think the only sound decision that Laurie made was pushing Judd off of the cart.
Oh man, what a great moment, right?
Yes, I literally snapped twice. I was like, "Yes, girl, you go."
Well, and you knew he was up to no good, like when he slowed down and like was like, "We're alone now." But I always wonder about that moment where if he had just like had a conversation with her and was sweet with her, if maybe that would have maybe turned Laurie a little bit.
Yeah, and he was being weird and too forward and like, remember when you bought me soup that one time that I was sick and you touched my forehead? That's fucking weird.
Yeah. Well, and then he pounces on her, so, you know. Come on, Judd.
Pre-pounce was weird.
Pre-pounce was weird.
Pounce was aggravated assault.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I do like gunpoint karaoke with Aunt Eller.
Oh yeah, when she stops the brawl in the schoolhouse.
Yes, and it's like, sing it now, and everybody's like, oh god.
Yeah, how like scared they start singing it is pretty funny.
Yes, she's iconic. She's like, y'all aren't ruining this. We need to do this.
Yeah.
There's a couple more things I got to click off that we've already talked about.
Sure. Well, while you do that, do you want to take a guess where they shot this movie?
Oklahoma.
They did not shoot it in Oklahoma, and I'll tell you how you can tell. Have you ever been to Oklahoma?
No.
The dirt there is red. And so it's pretty clear that it's not Oklahoma. They actually shot it in Sonoyta, Arizona. Oklahoma was so like heavily farmed at that point, and it was already like developed so much that they couldn't really find a place that seemed like an undeveloped, like, you know, turn of the century farm. So they found a place in Oklahoma, and the I guess the governor declared while they were filming that area that they were filming in official Oklahoma territory while they were filming. And kind of cool. I think the train that they use in the movie is in like a museum there now, and some of the like props and artifacts and stuff. So
that's cool.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, just trying to buy you some time.
So the bidding was intense.
I agree.
I was like shaking in my boots. I was like, Aunt Eller is literally being so biased right now. Like, I understand, like, if you don't want her to be with him and things like that, but you're embarrassing him and you're embarrassing like yourself.
Yeah.
I just felt bad for Jed at that moment because I was like, people are just playing against him at that point.
Yeah, no, you definitely.
Like, why wouldn't you feel?
Yeah, you definitely feel bad for him. I remember though as a kid being not mortified, but like Steph certainly shocked that Curly gave up Blue. I remember like that being like an emotional like resonance for me as a kid, just being like, he's given up his horse for a girl.
For a girl, a stinking girl.
I mean, he must love her, right?
Yeah, because even Judd pointed out, you're literally giving up everything. You don't have anything else but your gun, and then he sold that. So
yeah, I mean, Curly didn't need any help, but man, with that line, he totally helped Curly with Lori, because it was like, you're giving up everything, and it's like then she gets to realize like it's been verbalized, he gave up everything for her.
He loves me.
Yeah. Fucking dummy Judd.
Yeah.
Just dumb from beginning to end.
He would have won.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not, but I do know that he bought her satchel for $53.
Yeah.
How much would that have been now?
Oh,
did you say 15?
I mean, well,
or 12.
Yeah, it was like a little over. It was like $1,677 or something like that. It's a little over $1,600.
It's honestly crazy that you can get a horse, a saddle, and a gun for that much money back then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, it's not much. It's not much more than what Will got. How much he spent on presents? Like, he spent like $1,500 on 80 Annie, you know, to just buy her things. Like, he was just like, hey, could you imagine just taking a paycheck and just being like, I'm going to blow it all on presents for one person that I'm not even technically with yet.
Stupid Will.
I love Will. Will's great.
Oh my goodness. Their All or Nothing song, I loved it so much because I loved when Annie was like, oh, don't even worry about it. Come home when you want, but don't wait up for me.
Yeah, like, I'll be home later than you. Yeah. I do. I also really love the moment when she goes inside the pen and he gets on the gate and it swings around her and kind of blocks her in.
Yeah.
I thought that's a really, really nice piece of choreography.
Yeah, he's like, you're not going anywhere.
It's so smooth. You know,
I did think the proposal could have been a lot bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels a little rushed, like, you know.
Marry me. I mean, why would I want to do that for? I mean, yeah, okay, I will.
She couldn't fight for too long. She knew she needed to I don't know what I'm trying to say. She needed to
nap him up.
Yeah, she needed to just make the decision. Because her indecision, I mean, I don't mean to place the blame on Lori, but some of her indecision led to some of what happened in this.
Oh no, place the blame. Place that blame.
I don't know. Curly was kind of a dick in the beginning with the Surrey stuff. Like, you know, like, she probably would have said yes to him if he hadn't teased her so hard, right? So I don't blame Lori completely.
Didn't he already ask her though before that?
He asked her, implying that he was going to take her in the Surrey, and then he's like, the Surrey's not real, and she's like, a-hole, like, really? Why would you do this? Why would you? No,
I'm talking about Judd asked her before Curly did.
No. Surrey with the fringe on top is before Judd, because then she goes inside because she's upset with him, and that's when Judd comes and he goes inside, and Curly talks to Eller. You know, there's a thing with Curly and Eller too in that scene that I also think is they're like sort of playful flirting, and if you know, there could be an argument that her churning butter is also like sort of a sexual thing, right? Like, she's churning butter and he's singing this beautiful song, and then they joke about things, and then she basically shuts him down. She's like, you know, if I were younger, blah 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 blah, right? And then he kind of plays along with it, and then she shuts it down, and when she shuts it down, she opens the butter churn and like just releases all the butter, right? Like, takes all the butter out. Like, no, I'm shutting this thing down. This is over. You know, so
he could have had Aunt Eller.
He could have had, well, depending on if she was into men at all. Like, that might have just been talk for the times, you know?
Yeah.
He might not have had Aunt Eller because she had eyes on, I don't know, some other person. Some other girl.
He did yeet the shit out of her off of the hay.
Yeah, he did. He was like, you know, you sort of expect like somebody's going to be there to catch her, but he was like, "No, you got to get off this right now."
Like, when he did that, I literally was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, she broke her elbow.
Did she?
No.
Oh my goodness!
But that's what I mean. It looks like it's high enough that, you know, she could definitely hurt herself. So.
Yeah, I don't understand why nobody put the ladder back up.
Well, the idea was that they
forgot. You know, it was an emergency.
Panic, and it was on fire, and then you could burn up your ladder. I don't know.
I mean, what are 20 men standing around doing nothing for?
Yeah.
Somebody's got to have a brain cell.
Yeah, well, you know, 1906. And Oklahoma. No offense to Oklahomans.
Everything is not okay.
I was born in Oklahoma.
The very last note that I had.
Yeah.
Is that trial was very biased.
Oh, hell yeah. But I mean, it was going to be biased no matter what, which I think was their point to the marshal, was that, like, look, we can wait days to do this, but it's going to be the same crowd and the same judge. So
just get it over with.
Yeah, just might as well be done with it. So, yeah. That's it for your notes, huh?
Yep.
All right. You want to talk Mandela effect?
Yeah, I do.
So some people will say we're in love. No. Some people will say that the opening credits, including the title card that says Oklahoma, and the opening scene and many shots throughout the film are different than how they remember. They are 100% convinced that it opened differently, that it wasn't a black background behind the credits, and that there were like a whole bunch of different shots, more like close-ups and stuff, than this film. And they are correct. But it's not a Mandela effect. So this goes along with the Todd AO thing. So at the beginning of our movie, it said that it was presented with Todd AO production or whatever. So we're going to talk a little bit about cameras. So this is going to be a little bit more technical. I apologize if you're not into the technical stuff. I think it's really interesting. Hopefully Beat will find it interesting. So in 1953 came the advent of this thing called CinemaScope. CinemaScope was a new, wider frame for a movie. So, it used to look kind of like 4x3, like old televisions. It was like square. All the movies looked that way. So taller at the top, not as wide on the sides. And CinemaScope came around, and basically they use what they call an anamorphic lens. Have you heard the term anamorphic before, Beat?
No.
So you'll see it on the back of DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff. It'll say, like in the fine print, the ratio, and it'll say like anamorphic. And so an anamorphic lens is this sort of like almost like a fisheye lens. So basically what it does is it squishes or pinches, I'm making hand gestures, but nobody can see this, pinches the image so that way it fits onto a 35 millimeter piece of film strip, which is a square instead of a rectangle. And projectors will need a special lens over the projector lens or over the light to be able to unsquish that for the screen. So if you imagine a circle and you squish it on the sides and it just elongates and becomes an oval, that's essentially what it does to the picture, and then fits it onto the square 35 millimeter film. And then when not so much these days because projectors are all digital for the most part, but if you were to see a movie that's being projected on celluloid film, the film will either come anamorphic or they will come what they call flat. Flat means it's already been, it's either going to fit in that frame, that 35 millimeter frame, or it's essentially going to have black bars at the top and the bottom already, kind of like letterboxing like you see on your TV. And when that happens, when it's one of those films, they just basically zoom the picture so it fits the movie screen. And so you don't realize it, but the black bars are really there. They're just above the movie screen and below the movie screen. Or they do the zooming process and they put a metal, what they call a cookie. Imagine a cookie cutter. So you've got like a piece of metal with a hole cut out. The hole is perfectly the size of the anamorphic frame. And then it covers up where the black bars would be at the top and the bottom. So you're not actually projecting black bars above and below the screen. And if it's an anamorphic film, it's going to be that squished frame on the 35 millimeter celluloid, and you'll have that little adapter that the light will go through, and it will essentially do the opposite of what the anamorphic lenses did when they took the picture. It just does it in reverse. So basically images in that era went from what the ratio was 1.33 to 1. CinemaScope made it go 2.55 to 1, so closer to what we currently use today. We actually use 2.35 or 2.39 to 1 of those two. There's not a huge difference in them, but what we call 16 by 9 frame. I know this is a lot of like technical jargon, but so basically people had the image double in size with CinemaScope.
So that's why it looks like that. And you can, like, I felt like I could tell it was kind of like
we haven't gotten
very
there yet.
wide.
We haven't gotten there yet. We're close. So here's the deal. There was also, prior to this, something called Cinerama, which wanted to do a similar kind of effect, right? They wanted to have a wider field of view. So there are certain theaters around the country that are called Cineramas. We have one in Hollywood called the Cinerama Dome. There's a really excellent theater in Seattle called the Cinerama, which is my favorite theater in the entire world. The screen is curved because there's so much image. And how they did this back then, because, everything was on square celluloid, they used 3 projectors, 1 in the middle and 2 on the sides, that all projected at the exact same time. And they all handled a different section of the frame. So you would get these really, really big, wide things. So you'd have like How the West Was Won or something in Cinerama. It'd be like this super wide thing. And would allow them to have these really kind of like immersive experiences. But doing that, there were essentially kind of like seams where the pictures lined up. You could kind of tell that they were projected on different projectors and they were just being lined up, right? This guy named Mike Todd was the guy who helped create Cinerama, and he ended up selling off all of his shares to like basically fund his own project. And he was like, I think we can do better, and I think we can streamline this process. And instead of having 3 cameras, we can have 1. So he created Todd AO, which we saw at the beginning of this production. Todd AO basically shot on a larger film stock. They shot on 65 millimeter film instead of 35, and then they converted it and printed it to a 70 millimeter stock. So it was wider and it was taller, and then they didn't have any seams running down the sides of it. So it created a larger degree of field of view. Human eye sees somewhere between, depending on the person, 160 degrees and 180 degrees. So if you were to look straight ahead, that peripheral vision goes out between 160 and 180 degrees. CinemaScope's field of view, even though it was wider, was only 50 degrees. This Todd AO was 128 degrees. So it was like the closest to simulating what the human eye would see, and it just gave this massive like sense of immersion. And they also went from 24 frames per second, which is the standard for film, to 30 frames per second, which was kind of unheard of at the time. And it ends up becoming what we end up using for television, starting in like maybe the 70s. To kind of bring it back to what you were asking about, it looked different because this was a completely unique camera and a very different frame rate for this, not just this period, but for most film in general. Like even today we watch movies at 24 frames per second for the most part. So yes, this movie did look different. It's a very good observation. Now you know why this one looks a little different than others. Something else just about the Todd AO thing. The most film strips have 3 soundtracks, basically, that go to like, 2 will go to the center or the front, and 1 will go towards the back speakers. This had 6 soundtracks on it, so it was also kind of unique in that way. And Oklahoma is the very first Todd AO film. They did a limited release for, I want to say a year, but it might have been less than that. Basically, they had to find theaters that would allow them to like basically renovate and change where they had a projector, and put in a new projector, and obviously change the screen. And so this was a costly thing, so they only released it in a certain number of theaters, and they did that as like a special engagement. And it was like, it's like going to like a Broadway play, right? Like everybody wants to go and it's hard to get tickets. And so it did really, really well, and it played in Todd AO. And then, and this is where we're going to get to the Mandela effect part. After, let's say, a year, I can't remember the exact number, but let's say after a year, they released it all over the country in CinemaScope, because they shot the movie simultaneously with a Todd AO camera and a CinemaScope camera. And so
people were seeing two different versions.
People were seeing two different versions with different openings and different shots. And because they had to shoot it on two different things, they couldn't just put two cameras side by side because they were so vastly different. They had to completely reshoot every single scene. So what you would have a camera angle with super, super wide and super, super tall, those shots can't be transferred over. So they just had to do completely brand new shots. So some shots were close-ups, some were a little wider on some cameras. And so not just the opening is different, but the shots themselves. So people will remember, well, during this scene, I remember, this shot of Laurie or whatever. And it's because if they saw it in theaters, there's a good chance they saw the CinemaScope version. When it originally went to DVD, I believe it was the CinemaScope version. The version you and I just watched was the Todd AO version, which is considered to be a better, more superior version of it. Anyways, it's like a little livelier and it jumps a little bit more, and it's just like got a little more oomph to it. So that's the debunking of the Mandela effect on this. I hope that wasn't boring.
That's me clapping. That was so cool.
Okay, good. You're clapping. Okay. It was silence on my end. I was like, uh-oh.
I don't know how to make you hear my clap, but I was clapping. That's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's cool.
I love how they just didn't tell anybody, and they were like, here's two different versions.
Well,
and then
they kind of did.
Later.
They kind of did tell people at the time, but it was not something people really understood or cared that much about. It was like, I get to see Oklahoma finally. So it didn't really matter what version they were seeing. They were still hearing the same music and seeing the same actors. And of course, the movie goes on to get like 4 Academy Award nominations. It wins 2. It won, I know it won score. It won for the music. And then it also won for sound recording, so just the generic sound stuff. It was also nominated for best cinematography for a color film, because back then they had both color and black and white films, so they had to have 2 different categories. And it was also nominated for best film editing, which actually I think is very good in the film. And the cinematography is excellent too. I mean, just these, could you imagine these big sweeping sort of vista shots, super wide, and seeing something that wide and big for the first time on a screen, and it's like beautiful. I can only imagine how inspiring that must have been for moviegoers.
Yeah, I did enjoy the view.
The equivalent to that now is more digital, right? It's Avatar 2 or whatever, it's being hailed for its scenery, so that's probably the closest we get to it now. But yeah, I guess I could look at my notes to see if there's anything else that I have here that might be of interest. The soundtrack, we just talked about. It was one of the most successful movie albums ever made. The Broadway cast was from like 1943, so predated it by about 12 years. And that was a hugely, hugely popular soundtrack. And this was so big, it eclipsed the Broadway soundtrack. Like, they were like, forget the original people, this is the one we want. When I was a kid, we had this on vinyl. So
me? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I've heard this music a lot. And I think I mentioned to you, like, when the opening overture is going on, you're just hearing the orchestra at the beginning. When the Oklahoma theme came on, I was like, I think it's like a law that everybody who grows up in Oklahoma has to know all the lyrics to this song, because, you know, that song came on and I knew every single word that they were singing in it. So,
so would that be your song?
My favorite? No.
No. Like, like if a burglar was like, you have to sing all the words to a song, would it be this song?
No, but because it just wouldn't be the first thing I would think of. And it certainly wouldn't be my Stranger Things Vecna song either. Yeah, it's probably Time After Time by Cyndi Lauper. That's probably my song. That's
a random choice.
No, okay. So it's mine and Desi's song. It's been our song since we dated. It was a song we danced to at our wedding. So, and it's one that I know really, really well. So, like, and it means the most to me. So that's probably the song. That's both my Vecna song, and if somebody held a gun to my head and said sing the lyrics, I probably could do it. The other one that I
will cry right now.
What? If I started singing it?
No,
because nobody wants to hear that.
Because your little cute little Time After Time with Desi.
Oh yeah. She stood on my dress shoes and danced on my feet for our first song at our wedding.
This is the second time you've made me cry this week.
Yeah. So back to Oklahoma. There are a couple of notes that I do have here that are kind of interesting. They just didn't come up in the conversation. The art director, Joseph Wright, before they started filming, like, they knew, well in advance that they were going to do this. And so he started studying weather predictions for Arizona and, like, where they were going to shoot. And he saw that the area was really common to floods in the spring. So he, like, convinced them that they needed to spend $15,000 to build a dam. And they were like, no, we're not going to do it. And he's like, you have to do it. And they're like, no, we're not going to do it. And he fought and fought and fought. And he ultimately won. They built the dam. The floods happened. And it saved them $250,000 by building the $15,000 dam. Which I think is...
Did he get a raise?
Yeah, he should have, right?
Yes.
He should have gotten a cut of something, that's for sure. Let's see here.
It's like, you're going to regret it.
Yeah. So the director, Fred Zinnemann, this is his only musical he's ever directed. When they made this movie, it was $6.8 million in 1954, which is, like, unheard of for that era. In today's standard, that's actually not a ton, but it is a lot of money. It's about $75-ish million in today's money. So, I mean, it's still a lot of money.
That's how much they spent on it?
Yeah, $6.8 million to make this.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, that's considered like maybe moderate budget. Like, it used to be maybe 20 years ago that $100 million is unheard of. Like, it's like, like Titanic is like $100 million movie, right? Now they spend $100 million on movies like Avengers all the time, yeah. But back then the idea of the equivalent of $75 million was like freaking crazy. But keep in mind, they shot the movie twice, essentially, which, added more time to the schedule and more cost for equipment and so on. So,
or train stunts that cost $250.
Yeah, think about that. They had to do that train thing over and over again. Crazy.
Do you know how much they made?
That's a great question. Let me see if I can. I don't know for sure. office.
Well, I mean, no, I bet it's added up over the years. As well.
Yeah. I mean, there weren't home video devices until the 80s, so there it was all down to re-releases in the theater, and that's why Gone with the Wind is accounting for inflation is the most profitable, the biggest money maker of all time, is because that movie comes out in 1934 and just gets re-released and re-released and re-released and re-released over and over again, and so it just makes a ton of box office. Let's see here if there's a checking right now. Well, that can't be correct. Absolutely not correct. I got a $15,000 answer here, and that's 100% not right. Let me try one more method. Sometimes IMDb has. Yeah, no, they don't really have a better one. They have like a international, which is like just the United Kingdom at $15,000, which probably back then was a lot of money, but doesn't account anything for the U.S. or anywhere else in the world. So I would say no. I don't know how much they made, but by today's dollars, it's a lot. Oh, here's a fun fact. This is an independent film. This is not a studio film. This is, an early version of an independent film. They sort of like skipped the big three or whatever, although RKO had a hand. I think this was one of the last RKO pictures to come out. RKO had a hand in distributing the CinemaScope version, because the small studio that made this film, that partnered with Todd A.O. One, they took a risk on Todd A.O. They also took a risk on a lot of the actors and things, and a director who had never directed a musical before. Because the Todd A.O. thing, they had the money to invest into that, but they didn't really have the money to release this wide as a CinemaScope thing. So they partnered with RKO, and then RKO then, goes defunct not long after. They have a whole bunch of financial trouble and go out of business. And I think at one point MGM releases it, and maybe it's a Disney Fox thing now. I want to say it's probably on Disney Plus. Maybe. I don't know. Probably. I mean, I could look at that too, in case anybody that's listened to this is like, now I want to watch Oklahoma again. I will tell you if it's on Disney Plus. Oklahoma is on Disney Plus, so it's owned by. So I think Fox picked it up later on, and of course now Disney owns Fox. Let me see if I have any other notes here. The woman who played the dance version of Laurie, the sort of avatar for Laurie, was in the original Broadway production. Although they were in different roles in that. They weren't the dancer. Or she wasn't the dancer in that. James Dean was considered for the role of Curly, but he didn't get the part. Let's see here. More stuff about Gloria Graham. So Gloria Graham, because of the reputation she earned on this film, she wasn't cast in a lot of films after this. She was sort of relegated to television.
And who was that?
Ado Annie.
Yeah.
I have this note because it's just funny to me. I just really like the line. It's a little bit different than the Broadway version, but in the Kansas City thing, Will's talking about the woman, the dancer woman that he saw, and he says she was padded from her shoulders to her heel. Mm-hmm. And then he says, and then she started dancing, and her dancing made me feel that every single thing she had was absolutely real, which I think is just a really funny line. In the Broadway version, he says later in the second act, when she began to peel, she proved that everything she had was absolutely real. But they wanted to get rid of the stripper element a little bit. and just say, "Oh,
dare them."
Yeah, well, they're like, "Oh, prudes." And this was Shirley Jones' debut, who played Laurie. That's another note I had. Probably most famous for being in the mom in the Partridge Family in the 70s. But yeah, this might have been, Laurie might have been my first crush as a kid. I bet. And then
she's beautiful.
Yeah, thinking back on it, I think she was probably my first crush. Her or Annie. Oh, I'm just joking. It was Laurie. Yeah.
You sure it wasn't?
Oh man, I love her.
Yeah.
She's so great.
I cannot do that.
She's so great. I love how much she sounds like a horse. It makes me laugh every time I hear her. And she is pretty. Was her name Gertrude? I can't remember her name. It's gonna kill me. It's gonna kill me if we don't tell the podcast what her name was. Let's look up that who played her. Laurie Gertie. So Gertrude Gertie, played by Barbara Lawrence. She was in Perry Mason, Bonanza. So she was in a lot of Western things. Cimarron City. She was in a ton of Joe Dakota, Man in the Shadow, tons of Westerns. Cheyenne. Man with the Gun. Wow, she really was in a lot of... Here Come the Nelsons, Ozzie and Harriet. That's cool. Well, so yeah, she's great. Well, that's all I have. I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts, my friend?
I don't.
Oh, okay. So you wouldn't watch it again, but you might recommend it to somebody? Question mark?
If someone likes musicals.
Yeah.
Older musicals, I'd say yes.
Okay.
But I don't think I would downright recommend it.
Okay. I would definitely recommend it because I think it's worth seeing at least once. I think it's a fun little film. Makes me happy. It is long. I get that. So Beat, would you like to hear what our next film is?
I would.
Our next film is called Sing Street. Wait, are we doing a bunch of musicals? Holy cow. Technically, I don't know if I call it a musical. It's got music in it, but I don't think it's a musical, in my opinion.
I was literally going to ask the same thing. I was like, is this another musical? I don't mind. I do enjoy musicals.
It's an 80s era, and I mean, it's a modern film. It takes place in the 80s, and it's about people who sing, but it's not a musical per se. Like, it's like about band people. So, like, when they sing, it's because they're recording a song or because they're performing a song. But it's not like they're singing some internal emotion or anything like that. It's not a musical in that sense.
Okay.
I think you'll really enjoy it.
I hope so. I'm going in blind again.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Until next week, bon cinema.